Hi everyone! So quickly, I just want to say thank you to all my new subscribers and everybody that watched the last video. I'm very touched. I was not expecting a response like that, but thank you. I appreciate it because I'm really excited about this fan build. But moving on, we'll be talking about all of these topics with timestamps in the description as well as in the video, so you can skip to parts that you want to watch specifically if those relate to you. But yeah, so moving on. So first I'm gonna go bare basics. Types of vans. There are three types of vans, main types of vans. You have your Mercedes Sprinters, your Ford Transit, and your Ram ProMaster. Now there are other types of vans that people use to do van builds, but these are the three most common on the market, so I'm gonna talk about those. First, we're gonna start with our Mercedes Sprinters. These are the most expensive vans on the market to buy. They do come as either gas or diesel, though the 2022 option does have a turbocharged diesel option as well, which is kind of cool. But this is also the only van that has a four-wheel drive option. Has also a two-wheel drive option, but four-wheel drive is an option, although typically with four-wheel drive that does mean it's a little more expensive as well. So a negative besides price for Mercedes Sprinters that I have seen is that it is harder to get service because it has very specific parts that you have to go to a either specific Mercedes-Benz service area, or you have to get a very specific mechanic for it, meaning that can mean higher prices, more expensive. So yeah, I just kind of saw that as too much of a negative for me personally to not get one. These vans either come as a low or high roof, and here are the heights inside the van. And then it comes with a 144-inch or a 170-inch wheelbase. The 170-inch wheelbase does have an extended version, making the van longer. So yeah, and here are the lengths of the van if you wanted a good look. Okay, next we're gonna move on to Ford Transits. So next is a Ford Transit. Ford Transits are a little less expensive than Mercedes Sprinters, but are a little more expensive than Ram ProMaster. So they typically sit in the middle price-wise, but there hasn't been too much of a discrepancy between Ram ProMaster and Ford Transit prices from what I've seen when I was searching for a van. So a Ford Transit does come in a 130-inch wheelbase or a 148-inch wheelbase, and it does have an extended version on that 148 wheelbase. So the 130-inch wheelbase is the shortest van you can buy, for the most part. It is the van that I bought because I'm short, I'm small. I don't need a lot of space. I really like being outside, but some people really need a lot of space. They might have two people staying with them. So yeah, it's just really whatever you decide. Ford Transits come in gas, diesel, or EcoBoost. Ford Transits do come in an all-wheel drive option, which is going to be more expensive. It is not four-wheel drive, which is a good option if you're going to be like off-roading all the time. If you're not going to be off-roading all the time, I wouldn't say it's technically necessary unless you're going to be in unless you're a winter chaser. If you're a winter chaser, make sure you get a Sprinter four-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive Transit, because you're going to need it for the snow and ice. But anyways, it does come in a two-wheel drive option, which is a rear wheel drive. That is very hard for me to say. Rear wheel drive. Which means it is better for off-roading because all the weight is going to be towards the back, so it's easier to get up hills and on off-terrain compared to the Ram ProMaster, which I will explain in a second. So Ford Transits are wider than Mercedes Sprinters, and they do have the tallest roof option in their high roof option. And they do have a low roof, mid roof, and high roof option. If you plan on standing in your van, get a mid roof or a high roof depending on your height, which these are the interior heights for the mid roof and high roof. Okay. So another thing I really liked about Ford Transits is that it is easier to get service because it has more commercial, widely commercial parts in its engine and throughout the whole van. So you can go to most mechanics and they will be able to fix most problems. So I really liked that for the van personally. So lastly is a Ram ProMaster, the cheapest of the options, typically. And it is the widest of the options, meaning that you're less likely to need van extenders if you're sleeping sideways. And it is the boxiest van of them all, meaning that the van build might be a little bit easier if you're less constructionally inclined, I guess, because of the angles that happen to be inside of Ram ProMaster. They're more 90-degree-ish angles. So a Ram ProMaster comes with either a high roof or a low roof. The high roof you can stand in, the low roof, not really. Here's the high roof height. It comes in a 136-inch wheelbase or a 159-inch wheelbase, which the 159-inch wheelbase does come with an extended version. It only has a two-wheel drive option, but it is a front-wheel drive option, meaning that it does really well on flat surfaces, but doesn't do the best in off-roading, doesn't do the best carrying a really heavy load. So if you're like going mountain biking, you have an electronic bike, you have a 30-gallon water tank or something like that, it might not be the best option for you. But again, I've seen people do it. I have seen people do it. It just might not be the most efficient. It is gas only. There's only a gas option, meaning if you're looking for a diesel van, you need to go with either a Sprinter or a Ford. This segment is going to be about auction sites that you can go to. I used GovPlanet, Iron Planet, and RV Auction. Those are really great places to start. I found that they were pretty reliable based off of reviews and what I saw. A really unreliable source is IAAI or Insurance Auto Auctions Incorporated, I think. Not very reliable at all. They would mark vehicles as drivable when they weren't. Just saw a lot of bad reviews, so maybe just avoid that website. But these three websites are actually quite beneficial. I found that they were really helpful when starting to look, and they're really good places to start. You can also look at local auctions if you have any in your state. There are two ways to go when auctioning for vans. You can do in-state or drivable distance, or out-of-state or a travel distance. I suggest doing in-state just because you don't have extra fees to go travel. You can see the van yourself. You can bring a mechanic that you and your family have been using for a while, or maybe you have been using for a while, who you trust, all that kind of stuff. If you do out of state, please hire a mobile mechanic to go see the van before you make your trip out there. They'll be able to let you know more mechanical stuff, especially if you're not mechanically inclined like I am. I used one and it was super beneficial. They should cost around like $200 for an inspection on the van. So regardless if you're going in-state or out-of-state, there are certain things that you need to look for at auctions. These are tips and tricks that I learned, so I'm going to share with you guys. This is also done from research that I found. So first, you want to check under the van and see if the van is caked in mud. If it's caked in mud, and I mean like caked, like if there's like a little bit of mud from like driving, like you see it kind of splattered about, that's different than if it's like caked around the oil pan or something like that. Because that could be an indicator of flood damage or the fact that it was sitting in water, which really is not great for a van. That could mean a lot of damage, a lot of expensive repairs, just so you know. Also, look at the oil pan. If the oil pan is leaking, that could either mean minor or expensive repairs. Typically more expensive repairs are if you're touching around the oil pan, you get oil on your fingers. If you touch other parts of the van and there's oil getting on your fingers, that's not good. That's going to be an expensive repair because that means that oil is leaking throughout the mechanical part of the van, under the van. Not good. Another way to check for oil leakage or even transmission fluid leakage, any type of fluid leakage, look under the van and see if there are puddles or pools of oil or liquid. Also, for under the van, check for rust everywhere. You should check for rust everywhere. That is so important. You don't want that spreading. Next are tires. So tires, if you see the tires and they are worn down evenly, that's actually pretty good. Really worn down tires, you're gonna have to replace them, so that's an added expense. If you see that the tire is really worn down and it is shiny, do not touch it. They have, when a tire is worn down like that, they're like really sharp metal razors that could really slice your hand open if you touch it wrong. So if it's really worn down and shiny, don't touch it. Don't touch it, it's not good, the tire's about to explode. I know from personal experience. Just like but also if you look at the tire and it's worn down halfway and not worn down on the other half, like if the wear is very different throughout the tire, that could mean an alignment issue, which is also another expense. Under the hood, if you're not mechanically inclined, get a mechanic. I will keep repeating this. Get a mobile mechanic, bring your mechanic. They will be able to tell you how the engine looks. So looking on the outside of the van, make sure you check the whole outside of the van and you check the roof too. That's really important. I almost didn't check the roof of one of the vans I was looking at and we found roof damage. Like really bad roof damage on one of the vans. So I was glad we found that. But check for rust, very important. little dings at like auction vans, like little dings like if it looks like a rock hit it, or like a hailstorms hit it, or something like that, that's completely different. You want to check for if it has been in any major accidents, and there are a couple ways to tell. One, some vans on these auction sites will just show you right there that they have been in a very severe accident. We don't want structural damage, that's not good. Another way to tell is if an entire panel has been replaced. If an entire side panel has been replaced, like a door panel or the side behind the driver's seat or passenger seat, it's not necessarily a great indicator. That could mean structural damage if a whole panel has been replaced. You can tell if a panel has been replaced if it doesn't look even, if the gaps between the panels don't look even, or sometimes this is like really hard to find, but the paint jobs look different. And they can look similar, but when you go to the side and you see the shininess, if one of the panels looks really shiny and the other looks like a little more matte, that could also be an indicator that a panel was changed. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for that. And then lastly, at an auction van, you want to be able to test drive that van. If they don't let you test drive the van and it's been marked as drivable, it's a little bit of a red flag, okay? But if you are able to test drive the van, if you're able to turn the engine on, and if you're looking at a diesel van, I want you to rev the engine, and if you see blue or black smoke coming out of that exhaust, that's not good. Walk away right then and there. If you see an excess amount of smoke coming out, like a lot of smoke, walk away. Not good. But I will also provide a list in the description of everything that when you turn the van on, you should check everything in this description to make sure it works. Moving on. So this is advice for buying a van at an auction. If they tell you that you need to place an extra fee to hold the van, that's a red flag. That is not true. You don't need to do that for an auction that multiple people are going to be auctioning off. Now, if you are serious about getting this van, get the VIN number and get a CarFax report. A CarFax report will show you if it has been in any accidents, all of the services that's been done to it, everything like that, who it's been sold to, if it's been used for rental, corporate, personal uses. That's really important to find out, because if you see that it's been a major accident and has structural damage, not good, walk away. But sometimes it does cost a fee from CarFax to get a CarFax report of a van. So, and it's typically, I think, 50 bucks. So if you are looking seriously at a van, get one, because that's really important. If you're not going to be paying for the van completely in cash, which most people don't, that's really okay, I promise. Taking out a loan is probably what you're going to do if you're getting an auction van. So check your loan sites. I will talk about loans later in the video, but check your loan sites, see what you can get, see the cheapest APR you can get, see what you can pay monthly, and then do not bid higher than what you can afford. I know that sounds so simple, but don't do it. Moving on to the next topic. Next we're talking about CarFax, which is where I got my van, and I loved using CarFax. It was so wonderful because all the cars come with a free CarFax report, so you can see the vehicle's history, including ownership, which is like corporate, personal, or rental, if it has been in any accidents and how severe, if it has structural damage from those accidents, if it was fixed after those accidents, and the service histories. That way, you know, you're not getting like a lemon car either. So that was really nice. And all of these cars are being sold by dealerships, which means that financing options are available if you're not going to go the loan route. I recommend going the loan route, but that was me personally, and you just got to do whatever works for your budget and whatever works for you. So because CarFax covers dealerships nationally, if you're looking out of state, get a mobile mechanic near that area, look up reviews, get a really good mobile mechanic. It should cost around $200, and have them check it out before you get serious about the van. But also you can get in contact with them and have them send more accurate pictures, more accurate videos, have a video of the engine running. You can also get in writing that the aspects that I listed in that list down below work in the van, and if they don't, that they need to be fixed. That's what I did with my van, because she was 4.5 hours away, so in New York. So I was just in contact with the dealership, and they sent videos, they sent like the written approval that all of those things worked, and it was really, really helpful in knowing that that van was a good van. So kind of going off of CarFax and how dealerships are selling used vans, local dealerships are also really good to look at. Personally, the smaller dealerships that I went through, they were more accommodating and had better customer service and were a little less slimy. Not saying that they're all like that, but the ones that I went to were like that. The research I've done, people have also said similar things. Not every local small dealership will be like that though. So definitely be careful regardless of if they're nice or not. Look at the ratings of these dealerships. That will tell you everything you need to know. The dealership I went through, Crimson's Auto, had like 4.9 stars on like Yelp, which like people only go to Yelp to complain for the most part, or at least that's what I thought. But they had rave reviews and I really trusted them, so yeah. But look at the reviews, that's really important. Don't let them add extra expenses that aren't true or aren't there. Like the title, registration, tax, that's different. Those are added fees that came on my van. Those are added fees that come on a lot of vans. But if it's like a holding fee that isn't a deposit, no, don't do that. If it's like an added fee for buying the van, don't do that. That's a red flag. But they will try. There are dealerships that will try that. So yeah, just be careful. If you're taking out financing through a dealership, do not let them increase the APR for no reason. And see what the average APR is for you, for your credit score, for the van that you're looking for. Because you do not want them to upcharge you and have you pay like an extra like $200 a month or something like that. It's ridiculous. For dealerships, something to look for in salespeople is if they're answering your questions or not. Have a list of everything that you want answered about this van. And that is so important to bring a list because as someone with ADHD, it gets so easy to get steered off topic and like completely forget what you're gonna ask. Bring a list, make sure they answer all of your questions very concisely, and don't let them steer you off topic because that becomes a red flag when they're like not answering your questions or they start telling stories or something like that to try and get you away from the question at hand or the answer at hand. Because then it becomes, well, what are you trying to hide about this van? So yeah, just try and stay on topic. But yeah, so now we're talking about CarMax. Now, CarMax is like its own little dealership, kind of. So they sell used cars. It is a little more expensive to buy through CarMax, but only because they do all the mechanical and aesthetic fixes themselves. They also detail the car before they sell it. So it is really like fresh and clean basically. And you know you're not getting a lemon car. They don't buy cars with salvage issues. They don't buy cars that had flood damage or structural damage either. So you know you're getting like a pretty decent used car to start out with. But they also offer free accident reports, title issues, and a verification of the odometer, which is really important because like I said earlier in the auction section of this video, sometimes the odometer gets messed with and you can't verify that. And that can get kind of scary, not knowing the amount of miles that your car's been through. So because CarMax is like its own little dealership, if you're buying out of state, which I feel like is a little safer to do through CarMax, you can have the van transferred to whatever CarMax is closest to you actually. There's a little bit of a fee, I believe, but it is possible to do it, and it is safer to do it and more reliable to do it because it is CarMax. So CarMax does offer financing, so if you're not gonna go the loan route and you're gonna go the financing route, it is available. Before you buy the van, get an APR quote first, and if it's too high, negotiate that. If it's too low, and it's through CarMax, don't argue. Just saying. So yeah, that is CarMax in a nutshell. Next is gonna be about Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, Nextdoor, those kinds of sites. Finally, the last place in buying a van. The last place I would even recommend, honestly, this is the most unreliable place that you could probably be getting a van. It's Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, anything like that, Nextdoor. I recommend not doing it, but if you're I'm gonna give you a few tips to help you out. So this is not something I would suggest doing out of state. This is definitely something I would suggest doing in state. Unlike I said with the auctions or dealerships you can do out of state, this is not something I would recommend. Just because there is a high scammer rate on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, Nextdoor, whatever, for cars, this is something you definitely want to do in person. So obviously bring your mechanic, If it's being privately sold, which it most likely is through Facebook Marketplace or any of those websites, ask for the vehicle history. If they're not giving you a vehicle history or the VIN, red flag, walk away. I don't even care. Walk away. That is not something you want to do. Get the VIN, get a CarFax report if you're serious about the van. Get the vehicle history, like an accurate vehicle history. That's also really important. You want to see physical papers, not just them telling you like, oh, well, it had this done. No, you want to see hard evidence that it had this done. It wasn't in any accidents, anything like that. So it can be a little sketchy. This is a really scammy place to get a van that you're going to be building out of. Even if it's already built out and you're buying a van this way, I don't recommend it, but if you are, just know that it is super scammy. You are going to see sob stories all the time throughout this about why it's lower price, like, oh, my uncle just died and I need the money for the funeral, or oh, my kid got sick and I need the money like right now. Although 1 out of like 100 of those might be true, I'm sorry, just don't trust it, because that is so unreliable and so scammy. Just saying. I'm so sorry. So please just be careful if you're going the Facebook Marketplace route, if you're going the Craigslist route, eBay, anything like that. Be careful. The vehicle history is so important. Checking the vehicle like it's an auction vehicle, so important. Do not believe the stories they tell you. Even if it may be true, do not believe it. You can't believe this stuff online. Just saying. So yeah, that's Facebook Marketplace. When looking at your vans, do not be afraid to negotiate prices. It's gonna be the van that you're buying, so you may as well try. It does not hurt to try. What are they gonna say? No? And then you just pay the amount that you're willing to pay. Stay in budget. Do not go out of budget. I know that seems silly, but I feel like it needs to be said. Don't ruin your credit. Stay in budget, okay? You can also use Kelley Blue Book, which is a website that you can use. You can input all your van's information to see the price range that it should be. If a dealership or anybody has it listed higher, go lower, show them the Kelley Blue Book standard, and negotiate your price. Also, the biggest thing to say is don't rush to buy your van. There's no need to rush. The van that is yours will come to you. It will be okay, and trust your gut. If it is not the van for you, it is not the van for you. Don't rush it. Don't pressure yourself to buy a van just because you want a van, just because you want to start this lifestyle right here, right now. This is a process. This takes time, just to let y'all know. So now we're talking loans. So I recommend going the loan route versus the financing route, typically because the loan route gives you a cheaper APR or lower APR. Now that's not foolproof. That's just what I've seen through my research and through what I've been through. So you're gonna apply for a personal car loan. Don't let a lender tell you that you need a commercial car loan just because you're buying a cargo van. That's not true. It's true if you're gonna use it for commercial purposes, but if you're gonna use it for like a van build, you need a personal car loan, not a commercial. If you get a commercial car loan, the APR is actually higher. The exact same goes for financing. Do not let a dealership tell you that you need a commercial loan or commercial insurance or anything like that. You do not if you're doing it for a van build. You're gonna wanna get multiple quotes from multiple banks, multiple lenders, multiple places basically. So I went through USAA, AAA, Nationwide, Liberty Mutual, M&T Bank, I think like 2 others, but I got multiple quotes of like what my insurance rates were gonna be, or what my interest rates were gonna be, or APR rates were gonna be. And I went through the lowest APR rate, which is actually USAA. This is not sponsored, by the way. I don't have a sponsorship, but I do want to say USAA is the best place to go personally because 1, super accommodating. 2, the lowest APR I found by far. The only downside is that you have to qualify for USAA, and the way to qualify is if you or a family member were in the military or are in the military. So that's loan. So I'm going to talk about insurance now. And insurance is a whole other beast. You do not need to buy insurance from the same place that you got a loan from. For me, I got insurance through Progressive, but I got my loan through USAA. Doesn't need to be the same thing. But I do recommend going through multiple insurance companies and getting a quote, getting an insurance quote on how much it would cost. This is going to be a process. It is a process to find a good price insurance. I went for the cheapest just for the van build, so I wouldn't have to pay a lot per month, but it is to each their own. I just want to thank everyone for watching or getting this far or even watching a little bit of it. I really appreciate it. I hope this helped. If you have any other suggestions on what to look for, what not to do, just comment them down below, help other people out so we can have like a giant comprehensive community of like what to do, what not to do under this video maybe. But yeah, I just want to say thank you and I appreciate you and I hope this helped. All right, bye.